welcome to my channel, Dream Chase ASMR. I hope you're doing well. It's time for another story, and the story today is called The 12 Dancing Princesses. The 12 Dancing Princesses, the 12 Dancing Princesses. It's originally by the Brothers Grimm, but this version is by Jane. Okay, let's begin. The 12 Dancing Princesses. There once was a king who had 12 daughters. 12 daughters. Each one as clever and beautiful as the next. He loved them all dearly, but was puzzled by a mystery that happened every night. Every evening the king would tenderly kiss his daughters and then settle them down to sleep in the long bedchamber they shared. He then tiptoed out, always taking care to lock and bolt the door behind him. Lock and bolt. Lock and bolt the door behind him. There's the king, and there's some of the princesses asleep. Yet every morning the princesses were tired and wan, and their silken shoes were danced to pieces. Where did they go each night, and how did they leave their room? The king was determined to solve the mystery. For one thing, 12 new pairs of dancing slippers a day was costing him a fortune. The princesses were certainly not telling, so the king issued a proclamation. Any man who could discover their secret could marry one of the princesses and rule the kingdom with her on the old king's death. But he must find the answer in 3 days and 3 nights, or be banished from the kingdom forever. 3 days and 3 nights. 3 days and 3 nights, or be banished forever. So, this is the breakfast table. Here's the king, and all his daughters are here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and they're all very tired. Very tired. Marry one of the beautiful princesses and become king? You can imagine that it wasn't long before most of the young men in the kingdom were queuing up at the palace gates to try their luck. The first to try was a son of a king. He was led to a small dressing room next to the princess's bedchamber. He was enchanted by the 12 young women, and when the eldest offered him a cup of sweet wine, he happily drank it. Here he is, and here's a sweet wine, and there's a little dog here as well. This is the eldest princess. Then, when the princesses had gone to their room, over here, he checked that their bedroom door had been left ajar and settled down to his night-long vigil. But, however hard he struggled, the prince could not keep his eyes open. He was overcome by sleep, and suddenly it was morning. There, in their beds, were the 12 princesses. 12 princesses. Sleeping soundly, and there on the floor were the 12 pairs of worn-out slippers, the evidence of his failure. The second night, the same sweet wine, the same overwhelming need to sleep, and the same failure. And again on the third night, the young prince was duly banished from the kingdom, and another suitor took up the challenge. And so it continued, and so it continued. The king was in despair. Were his daughters able to outwit every man in the kingdom? So, every night, the eldest daughter gave him a cup of wine, and then went to bed. And here's all the other sisters. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 other princesses. Sometime later, a poor soldier, returning wounded from a battle in a faraway country, sat down to rest by the side of the road. Here he is. He was enjoying his simple meal of bread when an old woman approached him, and because the soldier was a kind man, he offered her half his lunch. Here's the old lady, and here's his bread meal. "Where are you heading?" the old woman asked. The soldier laughed. "Off to try my luck at the palace," he said. "I could quite fancy being the king. I could quite fancy being king, king. But the old woman remained serious. "Don't touch the wine. Don't touch the wine. Don't touch the wine. Don't touch the wine. Don't touch the wine those clever girls offer you. Just pretend to drink, then pretend to fall asleep. Asleep. Pretend to fall asleep. And if you wear this cloak, you'll become invisible and be able to follow them wherever they go." The soldier was puzzled, but he thanked the strange old woman, took the cloak, and set off for the palace. So here is the palace in the distance. Here is the young soldier. There's a squirrel here, a rabbit, some pigeons on the old lady's head, a bird in a tree. Here is a hare, and here is the old lady. And the old lady is giving him an invisible cloak that will turn him invisible. By now, the king had given up hope of solving his daughter's secret, but he greeted the soldier courteously. And so, when bedtime came, the soldier was led to the small room next to the princess's bedchamber. Here's the soldier arriving at the palace. He's greeting the king and some of the princesses. Some of them are watching. So there's one here. There's one here. There's one behind this post. One of them is here. One is here. And one is here. The eldest princess offered him a cup of wine, and the soldier pretended to sip and to sip some more. Sip, some more. The wine did not run down his throat, but into a small sponge he had cleverly tied under his chin. A small sponge under his chin. Then, as if overcome with tiredness, the soldier yawned loudly and rolled over onto his bed. "Silly fool, silly fool, silly fool," said the oldest princess, and laughing merrily, the 12 sisters danced into their room to prepare for the night ahead. They flung open their cupboards and trunks and began to dress themselves in fine lace and linen, embroidered fabric and rich velvet and brocade. They curled and plaited each other's hair, painted lips, painted lips, and powdered faces, painted lips and powdered faces, ruffled fans, and finally every princess slipped on a new pair of dancing shoes. Only the youngest could not enjoy herself. "Something feels wrong tonight," she said, but her eldest sister, impatient to be off, told her not to be a silly goose, and clapped her hands 3 times. A door appeared in the wall and slowly swung open, and the 12 princesses disappeared. So in this picture, the princesses are getting ready to go out. This is the youngest. This is the oldest. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 other sisters. The soldier clambered from his bed and hurried after them, flinging his magic cloak around his shoulders as he went. But in his haste he stumbled on his wounded leg and stepped on the hem of the youngest princess's dress. What was that? What was that? What was that? What was that? She cried. "Someone is following us. I know something's not right tonight. Something's not right tonight. Something's not right. Something is not right." "Nonsense," said her elder sister, but the youngest sensed something all the same and kept glancing over her shoulder as they made their way down the flights of stairs and along corridors. Finally, they arrived at a small wooden door. This opened onto a garden. So in this picture, this is the princess's bedroom, and all of the princesses are going down these stairs towards this doorway. But the soldier is here, inside his invisible cloak, and he stepped on the hem of her dress. This is the youngest princess, and she can sense that something's not right. Something's not right. And here's the door that opens onto the garden. The soldier drew his breath. He had never seen such a magical place. Such a magical place. He'd never seen such a magical place. The princesses hurried through the silvery trees which glimmered in the moonlight. Glimmered in the moonlight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Here is the oldest. Here is the youngest. And here is a soldier in his cloak. They came to a garden of gold, where the plump and delicious fruits hung down from the branches, burnished and bronzed, burnished and bronzed, burnished and bronzed. Then they stepped through an arch of roses into a third garden of all diamonds, which sparkled and shimmered in the dark like a spangled sky of stars. A spangled sky In each garden, the soldier felt he must be dreaming, and reached up to snap off a twig, just to be sure. Each time, the youngest princess was startled by the noise, and each time her sisters laughed away her fears and hurried her on. So here is the Garden of Gold, and here is the Garden of Diamonds, and this is the soldier snapping off a twig, and the youngest princess, she can hear him. An avenue of diamond-studded trees led down to a lake, and there on the water bobbed 12 little painted boats. 12 little painted boats. 12 little painted boats. In each sat a handsome prince waiting to row the princesses across the water. The soldier, growing used to this strange and magical world by now, climbed into the boat with the youngest princess, taking care to cover himself completely with his invisible cloak. So here's the lake, and here are the boats. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and in this boat is the youngest princess, and the prince who is rowing the boat, and the soldier in his invisibility cloak is sitting in their boat. After a while, the little prince rowing the boat stopped to rest. Why is the boat so slow tonight when I'm rowing as hard as I always do? The youngest sister only shivered in reply. Shiver, she shivered in reply. Across the lake stood a wonderful castle. Lights shone from every window. Fireworks exploded in the sky above, and the sound of drums and trumpets, flutes and violins reached down to the boats, urging all to join the party. Join the party, join the party. The princesses ran up to the castle and danced with their princes all through the night. They ate the most mouth-watering of foods and drank the finest wines. The soldier, hidden safely in his cloak, danced alone, weaving amongst the couples and stealing morsels of food from under the noses of the unseeing guests. Once, feeling very bold, he took a sip from the youngest princess's goblet. He took a sip from the youngest princess's goblet. Now someone is helping themselves to my drink, she said, almost in tears. But the elder sister, whirling past, only laughed at her. Oh, do stop worrying and come and dance. We've only got a few hours left. And sure enough, their slippers were soon so worn through that they could not be danced in a minute longer. It was time for the princesses to go home. So in this picture, all of the princesses are dancing and eating and drinking, and the youngest princess is here. And the soldier is in his cloak, and he's actually taking, or about to take, a sip of her drink from her goblet, which she did notice. The princes rowed the sisters back across the lake, and this time the soldier travelled with the eldest princess. All the young women were beautiful in their own ways, but she was the most interesting to him. princesses promised to meet their princes that following night and hurried back through the 3 gardens and along the palace passageways. They were tiring by now and sleepily climbed the last flight of stairs. The soldier slipped past them in his cloak, and by the time the princesses peeped through his door, he was lying in his bed, apparently fast asleep and snoring gently. "Silly fool," yawned the oldest princess, "but our secret is still safe. Our secret is still safe." And she lingered a moment, watching him as he slept. "So the princesses are coming home. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And the oldest princess is looking at the soldier and she thinks he's asleep. The next morning, the soldier felt sure it had all been a dream, in spite of the 3 twigs he had picked from the gardens. He decided to keep his vigil once more before seeing the king. The second night was exactly like the first. Exactly like the first. And the soldier enjoyed himself so much he couldn't resist following the princesses for a 3rd night of dancing and feasting. This last time he came away with a golden goblet under his cloak as further proof. On the 4th morning, the king wearily summoned the soldier to his study. The sisters hid outside the door to hear how he would fare. "Have you discovered how my daughters wear out their slippers every night?" Asked the king. "I have, your majesty," replied the soldier. "They dance away the night in an underground castle with 12 handsome princes." And he produced from his pockets the 3 twigs and the golden goblet, as he explained about the hidden door, the 3 gardens, the lake and the castle. So here is the king, and here is the soldier, and he's explaining where the princesses go every night. He has the 3 twigs from the green garden, the gold garden and the diamond garden, and the king has a bird sitting on his head, and they have a black and white cat as well. Here are the princesses listening outside the door. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the princesses are listening. The king called for each of his daughters in turn, and, beginning with the youngest, asked whether the soldier's story was true. Each princess hung her head. Each princess hung her head in silence until the eldest one spoke. "Father, it is true," she replied. "The soldier has outwitted us." "Then you must decide which of my daughters you wish to marry," said the king. The soldier knew that he had already chosen the eldest. She saw that the soldier was kind as well as clever, and was pleased to accept. "Just provided," she said with a smile, "that we can have plenty of dancing at the wedding." The wedding took place soon afterwards, and they danced the night away. So here is the soldier and the oldest princess on their wedding day. He has a different eye patch on, and she has a lovely dress and some decoration on their face. And here is their wedding cake. When, some time later, the old king died, the princess and the soldier ruled the kingdom together fairly and happily for many years. And as a queen, the eldest sister decreed that she and her sisters should go dancing as often and as late into the night as they wished, and she appointed a royal shoemaker to keep their dancing shoes.